Hey everybody, it's Al here again for another Let's Talk Politics. And today I want to talk about something that's been on my mind since this last election when Donald Trump won the Electoral College. I want to talk about all these people saying, "Not my president." For this topic, I want to do something a little bit different. Instead of having one long rant about the subject, I'm going to break it up into parts. We're going to talk about recent history where this has happened with other presidents, and we're also going to talk about how this is happening with Trump, and I'll let you know what my personal thought is on this whole "not my president" thing. Okay, really quick before I get started, in case anybody hasn't seen one of my past videos on politics, I want to really quick talk about my political leanings. I can already hear what I'm going to get in the comments section based on the thumbnail I'm going to use for this video. And they're just going to say how I'm a big Trump hater, and they're not even going to bother watching the video. So first of all, yes, I do hate Trump. I'm not going to mince words about that. He's a moron. He's incompetent. He's not fit for office. He's using the office for nothing but to enrich himself. And if you're being honest with yourself, you know that's true. If you're not being honest with yourself, well, I'm sorry. I'm not sure I can help you. Okay, I think he's an idiot. I lean to the left. I'm not a huge fan of the Democratic Party because I think they're far too corporate. Basically, if you look at their policies, they're in line with Reagan-era Republicans. So, they're mostly Republican at this point. And you can talk a lot about why that is, but a lot of it has to do with the money in the political system and how millionaires, billionaires, multinational corporations have been allowed to buy our politics. I'm not going to rail too much on that. I just want to give you a little background on where I'm coming from on this topic. Okay, so on with the topic. The first time in my lifetime I remember this happening was with George W. Bush. It's possible it happened with Clinton too. I couldn't find anything online about that. And from my personal experience, I don't remember it. But then I was 13. I was paying zero attention to politics, didn't care. The only things I cared about at 13, how are my grades, when's my next wrestling meet, and looking at the pretty girl sitting next to me without her knowing I was looking at her. You know, typical teenage stuff. When it came to Bush, I was in college when he was elected into office. It was not the first election I'd ever voted in, but it was the first presidential election I'd ever voted in. I did not vote for Bush. I did not vote for Gore. I voted for Ralph Nader. I would not vote for either of the two major parties because I felt they were both too corrupt, something that has been proven out since. But I don't remember it happening right away with Bush. And again, I could be wrong. I wasn't really huge into politics at the time. I just knew it was my civic duty to vote in every election. So I'd pull the typical college student thing, and I would cram about all of the candidates right before the election, pull the all-nighter the night before you got to vote kind of thing. And then I would go out and vote at that point. So with Bush, I don't remember it happening right away. When I remember it happening was when we found out he was torturing people and committing war crimes. And yes, committing torture is a war crime. Don't delude yourselves if you're a right-winger. If you're in favor of that, you're in favor of war crimes. So just be honest with yourself. If you're still in favor of it, you're still in favor of it. But know what you're in favor of. It's war crimes. That's when I remember the whole Bush is not my president thing being big and huge. And when the economy crashed, that was another wave of, he's not my president. So that's the first time I remember it happening. So in this instance, you had left-wingers largely, and I'm sure there were some Republicans in there too, but mostly left-wingers, saying that George W. Bush was not their president. And did they have a case for that? I don't know. Let's look at some facts. Who won the popular vote that year? Al Gore did. He won it by, I believe it was 500,000 or 600,000 votes. So it was really close. Don't get me wrong. It was a really close election. Al Gore won something like 48% of the vote. George W. Bush won 46, 47. I forget the exact numbers off the top of my head. And George W. Bush technically didn't even win the Electoral College. Now, before Republicans freak out, just look into this a little bit. What happened was there was a lot. It all came down to one state. It came down to Florida, which Jeb Bush was the governor of at the time. I don't want to get too Alex Jonesy. But anyway, it all came down to that. And there was a lot of talk about hanging chads and all this. And people wanted a recount. So they were in the middle of a recount. And there were some people said recount the whole state. Other people said, only recount these certain districts. And in the midst of all that, Bill Clinton's time was getting closer and closer to being over as president. So the Supreme Court steps in and says, nope, we can't do this. We need a president to take over for Clinton. So George W. Bush, here you go. You're president, end of story. So for all the talk about states' rights, the Supreme Court in that instance said, well, states' rights, don't care. Republican, you're the president. And it came out that after all this, no matter which way you recounted it, Al Gore won Florida, which would have given him the election. So maybe there was an argument on this one. Tough to say. But that's all in the past. It's all been litigated. It's done. We had 8 years of Bush. We're moving on. Speaking of moving on, after Bush, who did we have in 2009? Barack Obama is elected president. And instead of waiting for the economy to crash, because it had already crashed and he was trying to fix it, instead of waiting for a terror attack on U.S. soil for people to start saying, he's not my president, what do we have? Day one! Day one! The Republicans, who want to continually call left-wingers precious little snowflakes and talk about how we all need our safe spaces, from day one, they were saying, he's not my president. Not my president. He's a Muslim. He's this. He's that. And let's be honest here. Barack Obama, he killed, let's see, who was the first one against? The first one, Romney? I believe the first one was Romney. Maybe I got that backwards. It was McCain, but I think it was Romney. Again, doing this off the top of my head. But he killed him. Alright, it really wasn't close as far as presidential elections go. So Obama was the president, and everybody that said he wasn't their president, there was a pretty consistent theme to it. Let's see, what could that have been? Consistent theme with Barack Obama's presidency. I wonder what that could have been. So Barack Obama had to deal with all this birther stuff, people saying he was born in Kenya, people saying he was a Muslim, although the right wing also got on his case for going to a specific Christian preacher's church. So I'm not sure which one they want us to believe is true. Because I believe his name was Reverend Wright. Was one of the first issues with Obama because he went to his church, and apparently they thought this Reverend White guy was some kind of radical Christian something or another. I don't know. But then they get on this case about him being a Muslim. So, first, he's not going to the right Christian minister. They don't like the Christian minister he's going to. Then he's a Muslim who was born in Kenya. But to be fair, they got on W's case about this, right? No, they didn't. It was different. They got on Clinton's. No. I mean, they've been on Trump's case. No. McCain. They got him. No. Although McCain actually wasn't born in the U.S. But they didn't say a word about that. I know. Presidential hopeful Ted Cruz, they got on. No, he was born in Canada, and they never said a word about that. Well, to be fair, Trump did, but, you know. What could have been different? Okay, so my personal feeling about Barack Obama's policies aside, and where I have issues with Obama, it's on policy. But if you look at everybody who's complaining about him not being their president, I'm not going to say that all of them were doing it for reasons other than policy. But when you look at all the pushed material for it, yeah, a good chunk of them were. I'm sorry, they just were. All right, so, but let's move on. Let's move on to our next president. Donald J. Trump. The moron in chief. Okay, I'm sorry. I have no respect for the guy. But there's also people saying that he's not their president. And they've been, again, saying this since day one. This time it came from the left. And I'm being fair here. That's what it is. It's a lot of people, Democrats, who are saying that Donald Trump is not their president. And let's look at why they're saying that. He committed to committing sexual assault. He grabs their pussies. He doesn't even wait. And the not even waiting part, that's the important part, because that's sexual assault. It's all well and good if they say, yeah, absolutely, do it. No, when you don't wait, it's sexual assault. So he's admitted to committing sexual assault. I've been in a lot of locker rooms. That wasn't locker room talk. I've never heard somebody talk about like that in the locker room. Sorry. No. So could people be upset about that? Maybe. How about the fact that he advocated committing war crimes? He wants to commit war crimes. He wants to be a terrorist. He said so in the debates. Or no, was it in the debates or during an interview? I'm sorry, I forget which. Again, I'm doing this off the top of my head. The debates or the interview, though, he said, you got to go after their families. Their family. What's his? Like this. Families. Yeah, you're going after somebody's the families of people you think are terrorists that you haven't tried. That's a war crime. That's illegal under international law. You can't do that. You can't. It's illegal. That's actually the textbook definition of what a terrorist is. You're using violence against civilians to accomplish a political or religious goal. That's pretty much the textbook definition of terrorism. And that's what Donald Trump advocated for. He wants to be a terrorist. They should have been calling him Terrorist Don throughout the whole thing. That would have been the way to go. That's probably the way I would have gone if I was running against him. I would have played that over and over again and done that. But, okay, could people be upset about that? Maybe. Maybe. What else is there to be upset about Donald Trump about? He did kill TPP. That was a good thing, actually. That's the one thing I gave him credit for until he started putting... And I'm getting off track. Anyway, sorry. I am still rambling a little bit. But, according to a bunch of lefties, Donald Trump is not their president. And another wave of this has come about after the whole Charlottesville thing, which I've already talked in another video about Charlottesville. I'm not going to talk about it again here. It was atrocious. His response to it was atrocious. End of story. So, where does that leave us with this whole not my president thing? What are my thoughts on it? As if anybody cares what some random guy in middle America thinks about this. Well, here's what I think about it. Bill Clinton whether or not people complained about this, before or after the whole blowjob trial, whichever one it was, if they did, Bill Clinton was my president. All right? George W. Bush, as much as I detested his policies, as much as I detested his advocacy of war crimes, he was my president. Didn't agree with him, he was my president. Barack Obama, as much as I had problems with some of his policies, he was my president. This one's hard to say, people. This one's going to be hard to say. Give me a minute. Okay. Donald Trump. As much as I think that he is a loathsome piece of pond scum. Oh, okay, that's being cruel to pond scum. But as loathsome as I think this guy is, I don't agree with him on anything. He keeps showing himself to be an out-of-touch narcissist, doesn't know what he's talking about. He's not fit for the office. He shouldn't be there. Not that I liked Hillary Clinton, but Trump shouldn't be there. Donald Trump is a president. I'm sorry, facts are facts. I don't agree with Donald Trump on pretty much anything, if anything. Don't agree with him. But he won the Electoral College, and that is the system we currently go by, even though he lost the popular vote by something like 3 million votes. On a side note, I realized it could be close like Bush and Gore, but I didn't realize there could be that big of a discrepancy in the popular vote. Anyway, that's a whole nother rant for another day. But yes, Donald Trump. He is, unfortunately, my president. I don't like it, but those are the facts of the matter. You can say you don't agree with the president. That's perfectly fair. Whichever side of the aisle you're on, whoever the president was, to say you didn't agree with Barack Obama was perfectly fair. To say you didn't agree with George W. Bush, Bill Clinton, Ronald Reagan, anybody, Donald Trump, it's perfectly fair to say you don't agree with him. You don't agree with the president's policies. You know, you didn't vote for him. That's perfectly fair to say. But he is your president. And he is your president because he won the election under the rules that our elections are run by. And under the way they're governed. So yes, as much as it pains me to say it, Donald Trump is currently, unfortunately, regretfully, painfully, my president. That hurt. That really hurt, folks. But for any right-wingers who stuck through this, maybe you can see that it's policy-driven at this point. It's not just a hate for Republicans. You show me a Republican that's actually working to help people that just aren't the top 1%, and I got no problem with them. And I would say that is the majority of Republicans out there. Not necessarily the ones in federal office, but I don't think the majority of Republicans are necessarily bad people, but a lot of the bad people tend to also go that way, unfortunately. So, along with having Joe Schmo Republican who just wants his taxes lowered, unfortunately, that is also where the white supremacists and the neo-Nazis go, and by all accounts, looks like we got one in our office now, which is very sad, and I don't agree with him, but he is currently my president. That hurts every time I have to say it. But yeah, I think I'm going to cut it there. What do you guys think of the new style of video I did this time, where it wasn't just one consecutive rant? I did it in chunks instead, with a couple of breaks in there. Let me know what you think. I'm still pretty new to this YouTube thing. I'm trying to figure it out. I'm trying to figure out exactly what this channel is going to be. Politics is just something I happen to be passionate about, so that's what I'm starting to talk about. Hopefully next time I will manage to record some gaming or something. We'll do something more fun next time, I hope. All right, this is Al. I'll see you next week for something. Not sure what yet.